Okay, so now we're in the next section, parameters and variables. Now we're putting up the frame to the house. We've already laid the foundation with all the concepts and rules and principles that we taught you earlier. So now we're just adding more to the frame. Now, if you are new to this channel and you're not a part of the cohort and you would like to follow along with the curriculum, the link is in the description. It is free, so it's a great resource. It doesn't cost you anything, but you can subscribe and also put on that notification bell to get updates when I put more videos up, continue to go through all the chapters. So let's get into it. Parameters and variables. Earlier we said that a parameter behaves like a variable that exists only within the function. While this is true, the relationship between variables and the parameter is a bit more complicated. Function scope. The scope of a variable is the extent to which a variable is visible within a program. Scope consists of all locations within a program where a variable can be used or modified. Introducing function gives us one of our first examples of limited variable scope, a situation in which a variable is not visible throughout the entire program. In particular, a variable defined using let within a function is not visible outside that function. So here we go, our little first piece of code to actually show you how to do something other than what we've done before. We're going to remove a hyphen. So we are defining a function and we're giving it a parameter. Now, how do I know it's a parameter? Because I am defining the function with the keyword function. So if this remove hyphen was by itself like it is right here, then that's LaunchCode right here is what we call the argument. Now notice here, inside of this function, we are declaring a variable and initializing it with an empty string. Now, when you see empty strings, when we see 0, you should be thinking the accumulator pattern because we're going to add something to it. Here we have a for loop. The for loop is doing what? It's iterating over a string .length. Where we get that from? From the parameter. So this is where it's like a variable, an object that has nothing in it, because we haven't given it a parameter yet. So this could be of any length. This is why we put the length property on it, so it can find the end of whatever is in the object. As it iterates over whatever the argument is, however long it is, if we go into a condition, actually we're doing a check next, and notice that we're putting the if condition inside of the actual for loop. So if I is less than the string length, if that's true, it runs this little piece of code right here, this conditional. And in the conditional, we are checking to see if I, which is the index of this object string, not equal to the hyphen. What does that mean? It is searching whatever the index, whatever is in that string object. If there's a hyphen there, it's saying that do not save it. So if that's true, then this block of code runs where now whatever is true, if the letter is not a hyphen, it's going to store it here because we have the compound operator, the plus equal. Now we're not reversing anything, so we don't have to write it out. So we're just going in order. This is why we have the plus equal operator. And now understand something here. Now the return, like I told you, the final return is going to be closer to this closing bracket. So what am I returning? Strings without hyphen that we've created inside of this if conditional that's running in the if conditional that we created at the top of the scope of this function. And now when I go down here, I create declare and initialize another variable called LaunchCode phone number, which is a string that has hyphens in it. And now I am invoking remove hyphens, and I'm passing it the argument LaunchCode phone, which is holding this value right here. Now I have something to iterate over. I have this string of phone number, so it goes through each index. So I is 0. Is there something at 0? Yes. 3. Is 3 less than, if that 0 index is less than the length of it, meaning something there. Now I run this piece of code, and then if it's not a hyphen, I want you to store it inside of this string without hyphen. So not an hyphen, that's what it's saying, and then store it. So 3 is not a hyphen, so it gets stored. How does it know it's a hyphen? Because of our ASCII code, because it has a binary number signed to it. But then we go down here and we try the console log string without hyphens, and we get this reference error. Why? Because it is not defined. It's not defined because all of this right here is on the outside of the function. And once it hits this return, we're going to find out that function is done. So here, the last line of this program tries to print the variable strings without hyphens to the console, resulting in an error. The previous line calls remove hyphens, at the end of which strings without hyphens has the value this. Now it just has all numbers with no hyphen. However, once the function finishes execution, all variables and parameters within the function are destroyed. This is why the last line results in a reference error. This is no variable name. There is no variable named strings without hyphens in existence with that line executes. This is what we mean when we refer to scope. The variable is not necessarily usable throughout an entire program. Where it can be used depends on the context in which it is defined. For variables and parameters within a function, their scope is known as a function scope. So remember that word. This means that they are only visible within the function in which they are defined. Now I'm going to stop the video there, and then we're going to come back and finish up this section with variable shadowing so I can make sure you understand this. So that's the end of this video. So remember, the more you do, the more you improve. See you on the finishing up this section.